Okay, and any news on when and if we're going to get some rugby in South Africa?
Well, they are really working towards July, and I think New Zealand's working towards July. Australia's working towards July.
I had heard that Emirates won't be flying until July, so
yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure how involved they are in the transportation, but.
Well, you also look and just and SA Rugby magazine, and big up to the editor Craig Lewis and his team. 2 million page views over the last couple of weeks. They've been very creative with their content.
They've had to be.
They've been at the forefront, though, of what's been out there with the news and that the fake news that there's going to be a Trans-Tasman tournament that's going to supersede Super Rugby, and that's the end of South Africa. If there's anything that happens Trans-Tasman in the next 3-4 months, it's a short-term interim to get rugby played in Australia and New Zealand, and because the international borders won't be open from Africa or from South Africa. And South Africa would do a boosted domestic competition, the old glory days of the Currie Cup. It doesn't mean Super Rugby's going anywhere. Super Rugby's there for the next 10 years. And
do you think they should just void the season and give the trophy to the Sharks?
Apparently that's what the Sharks are saying, eh? But so it's just a matter of trying to get games played for the broadcasters at the moment. So if their contract is 30 games, they're just trying to find those 30 games as opposed to which games that they have to be. But South Africa, and I think the public needs to understand this, that South Africa is the strongest partner in the SANZAAR allowance, that Super Sports broadcasting is bigger than Sky, whoever there is in Australia now, and Argentina's ESPN combined. So South Africa holds the key to everything, and they're very much aligned to New Zealand. New Zealand's aligned to South Africa. The All Black Springbok test matches, they don't want to go anywhere, and they believe if anyone ever had to fall out of the mix, it would be in Australia, or a reduction in Australia. It wouldn't be South Africa that falls out, and the people making the biggest noises there are the Australians.
That's unusual for an Aussie to be making a bit
Well,
of
it's their players, the ex-captains who are now very clever. They got rid of Castle. The 11 captains signed a petition, and they all believe they're capable of running the sport. They've got a big opinion. Let's see what they actually can do now.
Is she gone, Ronnie?
She's gone. She resigned last week. Just said kind of, if the majority have spoken, she feels she's done her bit.
Kind of reminds me of that song in the Wizard of Oz. Yay ho, the yellow, the witch is gone.
Exactly, but I mean, it's just Australia's in serious trouble.
Well, she ran it into the ground.
Well, they would say that the way she handled the Falau thing wasn't necessarily the greatest, but she got a lot of good reviews from how she tried to clean up what was an absolute mess when she took over. And Australian rugby has been a mess for a while. They never handled the expansion to Super Rugby well. They tried to nationalize the game by taking it to every region. Rugby consistently is behind Aussie rules, behind Rugby League, behind soccer, and behind cricket. So it's a fifth choice
even behind
sport.
netball in some areas.
So it's a fifth choice sport. And when they went from 3 to 5, they feel that actually killed it because it made them less competitive. Their power base was kind of split everywhere. And the Wallabies have been consistently poor for the best part of 6-7 years, even though they made the 2015 World Cup final. And the way New Zealand has dominated them consistently has made their game very unappealing to the Australian public. Their broadcast deal is gone for now. So they have serious issues. So when I read reports about Australia saying this, Australia saying that, and we kind of tend to react in this country, I'm like, no, we're not saying much because we actually are in the position of strength. And it doesn't always reflect through our performances on the field. So people would imply that we're a weaker partner of SANZAAR. We are the strongest partner commercially when it comes to SANZAAR.
So when do you think we will be playing rugby in South Africa? Let's just focus on that. I mean, I know everybody's desperate to see a game, but
I think.
What do you think is going to happen?
I think by July, August, rugby will be played everywhere. It's just give me the detail of how it will be played. I don't know that yet, but I don't think you'll see anything internationally with international travel. And that October will be the first international travel when teams come here. The 2 Scotland tests, Wales go to New Zealand. I think Ireland goes to Australia, and then November test. I think by that time, November, everything will be running again as per normal. The French domestic season has been called off. It's voided. They will start their top 14 2021-22 season. They'll look to start that in September, apparently. So all sport in France is off till September at least.
Yeah.
But I see if you look at soccer in Spain, in Italy, they're all starting to go back to training again behind closed doors in the UK as well. So the big thing about rugby is that it's a contact sport.
Yeah.
Some may say soccer is as well, and you see those guys on the floor half the time. But it's just getting through those kind of the detail of the pandemic and kind of how far-reaching is it, and is there going to be a second wave of infections in various countries? But I would expect to see, as I said, August at the latest, but July, that there'll be rugby on the screens. We may not be at the stadiums being able to watch it, but there certainly will be broadcast rugby, and Money Man can be back and can be betting.
I tell you, it's been interesting going 5 or 6 weeks. It's the 6th week now without betting. It's I miss it.
Can you imagine? No cigarettes, no alcohol, and no betting.
What I don't want anymore is I don't want any more emails or questions from guys on which camel's going to win the 5th race at Abu Dhabi, and I just can't. I don't know the form of many camels out there, folks. So you got to.
And your esports knowledge still not quite there.
No. Frankie, who represents Liverpool, versus Johnny, who represents Man United. I don't have much form on either one of those guys. So, no, I haven't been tipping anything. I did bet on some 4-on-4 hockey and did okay, but I then had to rein myself in and just remind myself about the principles that I try and preach,
And are you betting on Peter Steff going to Montpellier to become the highest paid player in rugby union?
I'm betting that he is going to become the highest paid player in rugby union. I don't know if he'll go to Montpellier, but though they have the inside track. Them saying it's fake news is a lot of bollocks. There's no doubt that they've made an approach to Peter Steff to tie.
Yeah, well, I mean, at one stage they'd been the South African Super Rugby franchise playing in France.
Exactly.
When Jake White was there were more du Plessis in the team than Frenchmen. So I think that number of 9 is down to about 6 now, but they bought Andre Pollard, who is with Charles Piatel, the highest paid player in world rugby at the moment. And I know that Europe and the UK have been chasing Peter Steff probably for the last 2 years, and especially after the World Cup.
I think God Select 15 is chasing Peter Steff to toy right now. He's such a
Harlequins were the front runners at one stage. He decided to stay in South Africa.
Yeah.
But again, I think where he came back from the World Cup and said he still felt he had some time in Super Rugby before he looked at the overseas option. He had that freakish accident in Super Rugby, hematoma to the leg, clotted, and there was a moment or a couple of hours over a 24-hour period where they felt that they couldn't get the clot down, and the hemorrhaging was so bad that there was talk that he potentially could lose his leg.
No.
So I think the jar of that showed him how quickly it could end.
Yes.
And if you can get, and they talk in figures of 75 million rand, which tomorrow probably be 85 million rand given the exchange rate. So I'm sure when Montpellier made the offer, it wasn't translated at 75 million rand, but he'd be a fool to say no. It doesn't hinder any prospects of him playing for South Africa.
No.
He'll always be available for the Springboks.
How do you think he would do in Northern Hemisphere rugby?
He'd be sensational.
Yeah.
Because they would play him 7, 6, 5, 8, could play fly off. And he's just such a team man. I mean, he if he's fit, he doesn't miss a game. He gives such versatility, and he's one of those unassuming characters that doesn't hog the media limelight. He actually doesn't want anything to do with the media. The stories are when they did the grand parade around the country after the World Cup, he was one of the most reserved, at the back, unassuming guys. He just wanted to get back to the farm and just be calm and kind of have that escape. But yeah, he's a fantastic rugby player. And what's nice to see at the moment is you look at people choosing World 15s. There's 7, 8 Springboks in it. You look at the highest paid players in the world. There's 2, 3 South Africans in the top 5. And that tells me that our game has changed for the better, and that we're in a healthier state than we ever were. And I think what Rassie showed with the World Cup in 2019, in selections 2018, when he said there were 300 South Africans playing overseas, maybe 10 are good enough to make the World Cup squad, but he thinks potentially 5. But those 5 will dictate whether we win it or lose it.
Yes.
And so he had about 10 in the extended squad of 40, but 5 were very, very prominent throughout the World Cup campaign and the build-up to it. So that may have also educated our public to stop knocking these guys who go overseas, to make 70 million rand instead of making 7 million rand here.
Yeah.
They're not betraying South Africa. They're not turning their back on the Springboks. They have better playing career opportunities. You know, it's
well,
like
it's
a guy,
funny. No one ever says it when Quinton Fortune or any of these other guys went over and played soccer.
Yeah.
No one ever criticized that
it's
they
like
should
if
be
you
playing.
can play for Chiefs or United, you take Man United, you know,
Yeah.
and the money's there. Doesn't mean you turn your back on Bafana. So I think we need to grow up. Maybe the 2019 World Cup has finally killed that off. That it's an asset to our game. So many of those players who've gone to the north have come back better players, especially our forwards, because of the slower paced nature and the more physical part of the game over there. They have been better players, and at the moment, when we've seen through the consistency of Wales, through the strength of England, and for a good couple of years Ireland, that the Northern Hemisphere game is particularly strong. They had 2 out of the 4 in the semi-finals, and England, Ireland, and Wales to a degree, for large parts of the last 5 years, have consistently been 2, 3, and 1 on occasions in World Rugby. So this nonsense that it weakens our players, I think it strengthens them, and long may it last.
Cool, man. Then Mark, thanks for coming in, and let's hope that we get some sports soon, and then we get to enjoy life a little bit better than it has been.
Thanks, Kev.